Did AJ Storr actually make the right decision to transfer?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, and I'm so excited for you to be here. Today's episode, we're talking about AJ Storr, and if he actually made the right move to transfer, a different take on that one, update on Chucky Hepburn, plus the stats that define this year's basketball team, including an eye-popping one from Kamari McGee, and then a football player I'm keying in on a spring practice gets a little bit nearer. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, let's talk AJ Storr, because I think I have a bit of a different take on this one than a lot of people. Now, AJ Storr last year was a big part of this team. I don't want to go back and diminish what he did. I'm not going to do that. There were games we won because of AJ Storr. You look at what he did for this team last year. It was about 30 minutes a game. It's almost 17 points a game, almost 14 shots a game. He was the bell cow on this Badgers offense. Got a big offer from Kansas, bolted. We all know the story. And a lot of Badger fans have checked in on AJ Storr periodically this year with probably a little bit of, the grass isn't always greener energy. And I agree with that. This year he's down to 17 minutes a game, 6.7 points per game, 6 field goal attempts per game, shooting worse. His numbers are down about across the board. Minutes per game is almost half of what he got at Wisconsin. Points per game is under half. Just getting about half the field goal attempts that he got at Wisconsin. And it's really easy to look back at that and say, oh, man, what a mistake from AJ Storr to transfer. Can you believe he had all this going at Wisconsin and the grass is not always greener? I think he actually made probably the smartest decision he could have made. Because why did he transfer to Kansas? Obviously the money. But why didn't he go to the NBA? It was because there are warts in his game that were apparent. Even scoring 16, 17 points a game at Wisconsin, there's the reason he's still in college ball is he went to the combine, he went to get evaluated by NBA scouts, and they said, not quite there yet. Obviously, love the athleticism, love the vertical, love the weight, the size, the wingspan, but shooting's a little too inconsistent. Defense is too inconsistent. And there's not a lot else you do on the court, right? Your ball handling's not clean enough. You're not a great passer. You're not a great defender. You're not helping on the glass. You have to be more than just a volume scorer to make it to the league. You have to be more than a volume scorer and an athlete, right? You have to be better in other areas, or you have to be incredibly efficient as a perimeter shooter. He wasn't any of that. Right. So that's why he's not in the NBA. And my point in all of this is the warts were starting to show up. And instead of saying, I'm just going to stay here and develop, he said, I'm going to take what I can get while I can get it. And I'm going to take a grandfather offer at Kansas. I'm going to take $1 million, $750,000, whatever it is. And I'm going to cash it in now. And where I think this is interesting is I think a lot more players are going to start looking. I think this is going to be kind of where college basketball starts to go. It's not about, is the grass greener? It's not about, is that program better? It's not about, can they develop me better even for the NBA? It's literally about, this is my professional career now. My professional career is in college sports because so few people make it in the NBA that you have to take the money where you can get it. You have to get what you can get while you can get it. Because I don't think AJ Storr is ever going to make it to the league. I don't think he has that skill set. And I think he probably our people in his circle probably started saying, man, these warts are here. They're not going to go away. You need to go make the money while you can get it. And in doing so, I think he made maybe the smartest move he could have made. You go get that $750,000, that $1 million from Kansas, whatever it is. You cash in while you can. That's life-changing money if you're smart with it. If you put some away, you can buy a house. You can do all sorts of things with that. And it lessens the need to make it to the league by so much because you already have that payday in your back pocket. And that's where I think a lot of fans will say, wow, what a big mistake. Well, if he had played another year at Wisconsin, John Blackwell had gotten better, and AJ Storr's efficiency didn't get better. He continued to struggle on defense, continued to shoot 32% from the three. Well, his percentages, his ability to go make $1 million in the open market would have just gone down and down and down, and he still wouldn't have been any closer to the league. I think what he did was smart, actually, from a financial standpoint. I think that's what you're going to see more and more players do. They're going to treat college ball like, this is my opportunity to make a professional type of money. This is my opportunity to make money. And I'm going to go, it's not about anything other than what's the biggest payday for a lot of players. And I don't fault anybody for that. That's what a lot of professional leagues are, where Go watch baseball. Who signs the biggest players? It's the Dodgers because they pay the most, right? It's no different. It's no different than any professional league. And I think that's where people have missed the boat a little bit on AJ Storr. I think he made a business decision that was incredibly smart. And it wasn't about Kansas is going to develop me better. It wasn't about anything other than this is my professional contract and I'm going to have to maximize it while I'm here. And if Wisconsin would have maximized, he probably would have stayed at Wisconsin. I don't think this team misses AJ Storr. That's the other part of it. I think this was probably win-win. He got his payday and Wisconsin was able to bring in pieces that fit a little bit better with the type of offense they want to run. So no, I hear a lot of people almost poking a little fun at AJ Storr, and I get it. I absolutely get it, but I think he made the smart decision because I think the warts were going to keep shining through. I think his value was going to only go down, and he capitalized when he could. Let's talk about Chucky Hepburn for a second. I thought it'd be fun because we've talked a lot of portal stuff recently on the football side, but also the basketball side where we've talked about the impact that portal guys have made, Kamari McGee, John Tonje. I thought it'd be fun to go and check back on the people that left, right? Which is where I got to the AJ Storr talk, but also Chucky Hepburn. Chucky Hepburn, if you haven't been following, transferred to Louisville. He's been really good for them. Hepburn this year, 33 minutes a game, almost 6 assists a game, 2.6 steals, 3.3 rebounds, averaging 15 points per game. Like, he's been really good for them. Been one of their better players, and I've said it once, I've said it twice. I've said it a bunch of times. If you were to have been able to keep Chucky Hepburn on this team, this offense would be even better, which is crazy because they're averaging 82 points per game. They're getting up 26 threes per game. They're shooting at the highest clip of free throws. They're on pace to set the free throw record for college basketball, shooting 8.855%, 85% from the charity stripe. The offense would have been even better. They would have had another guy, a guy who can consistently get into paint with all the shooting around Chucky Hepburn. I don't want to belabor this because it's never going to happen, but just imagine all the shooting around Chucky Hepburn and him working that middle pick and roll with his ability to pass, his ability to get in the paint, man alive, and his ability to shoot off ball. It would just be another spacing element. This team would be really, really, really good. And you would still have all the core pieces. You would maybe not have a Cameron Hunter. You would maybe not have, I don't know who else, because you still would have brought in a Tonje to replace Storr. You still would have brought in an Amos. You would have had everyone else except for maybe Cameron Hunter. This team would have been absolutely lethal on offense, even more so if they didn't have, or if they still had a Chucky Hepburn. So there you go. AJ Storr statistically is having a really poor year. He's struggling to find minutes, and Chucky Hepburn's looking great. And I think if Hepburn was still on this team, the Badgers would be a lot better. I don't think they would be with AJ Storr, but I do understand why he left. And I do think he probably made the smart move. The other guy who moved on, Tyler Wall, he's hooping professionally with a Croatian league. I don't actually know his stats over there, but he is getting paid to play basketball. It's really remarkable when you look back at last year's team. Hepburn was one of the top gets in the portal. AJ Storr was considered one of the top gets in the portal. You have a guy in Tyler Wall who's playing professionally overseas, and this team is better. That's kudos to great guard, right? It's kudos to replacing talent, finding the right fits in the portal, developing guys, Gilmore, Kamari, Nolan Winter. You really got to give him a lot of credit. The more we talk about, the more you really have to give him a lot of props for building this team and overcoming a lot of personnel losses that people didn't think he would be able to do. And you have to give him credit for that. All right, coming up, we're going to take a quick second here. But coming up, I want to talk about the stats that define this team, including an eye-popping number from Kamari McGee. That's next on Locked On Badgers. First, today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the number one source for all your sportsbook needs, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, the official sportsbook of the NFL. They are fast and easy for all your betting needs, whether it's parlays, futures, teasers, spreads. It's all over there on FanDuel. They're simple. They're trustworthy. It's easy to get your payouts. Plus now, if you bet $5, you get $300 in bonus bets. That's $5 bet gets you started with $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, that's over at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's come back into this and talk about the stats that define this year's team. All right, big one from I want to start with Kamari McGee because that's where I think his story is remarkable. Kamari McGee shooting. This is wild to me. And I had to look this up, and then I double-checked it. Kamari McGee currently shooting 56% from three. 56%. What in the ever-living heck? 56% from three. 2.2 attempts per game. He needs if he gets that percentage or those attempts up, he's going to have the highest 3-point percentage mark from a Big Ten player since at least 1992-93 season. That's That's how off the charts he has been shooting the ball. And a lot of these shots haven't been easy. It's been contested shots in the corner because if you've noticed, defenses no longer leave Kamari McGee open because that scouting report is out there. The scouting report that he is going to bury you if you give him open looks. He's shooting 56% from three. 56% on a couple shots per game. Absolutely insane. Again, if he needs to average 2.5 attempts per game to set the official record. He's at 2.2 right now. If he can get that number up, he's going to shatter the modern Big Ten three-point record for a percentage. He's going to shatter it. 51% is the current record if you go back to 92, 93. I don't know what it is before then, but in the last 20 years, I mean, he's beating that mark by a massive amount. He has been absolutely incredible. And that is another testament to development, to a guy that you brought in and you've developed over the course of a couple of years. That was a portal find, a guy who fit into the culture and a guy who's become not just a guy shooting 56% from three on the year. His true shooting percentage is like 680, which is second in the Big Ten this year if he had enough field goal attempts to qualify. His efficiency is absolutely off the charts. And that was a portal find that took a couple years to develop. I think that's kind of where Greg Gard's niche is right now. A couple other stats that I think define this year's team. The first, we're going to stay with shooting. First in the country in free throw percentage, 0.855, so 86% if we round up. Absolutely insane. You're lucky on a team if you have one or two guys in clutch moments that you're like, okay, these two guys shoot 86%. You can't foul those guys. The other team knows it. They talk about it in the huddle. Okay, don't foul 11, don't foul 24. Those are their free throw shooters. But we can attack this guy, that guy, and that guy. The Badgers as a team are shooting 86%. That, again, if that mark holds, it's the greatest free throw percentage in college basketball history as a team. That is absolutely remarkable. That's an elite number for an individual. As a team, it's unheard of. And you go back the last couple of years, the Badgers are first in the country right now, obviously, in free throw percentage. What were they last year? They're 45th last year. The year before that, they were 282nd. This team has no weaknesses from the line, which, what does that do for you? Outside of the obvious calm that it gives fans when Badger players step to the line, it makes it so difficult for teams to come back against us because you can't foul us. That the tactic that always used to work against the Badgers is there was always an Ethan Happ on the floor, a Tyler Wall, and those guys were too valuable to take off the court because defensively they were too good. They were too instrumental to the offense. They were too good on the glass, but teams would attack them, and you just put the Badgers and put Greg Gard in a really difficult state where you had to play those guys because they were too valuable, but other teams would attack them to make up the gap at the end of the game. There's nobody you can attack now. There's nobody on this roster that you can go and hack when you need to make up a deficit. It means when we get a lead, the way we run our offense, the way we hit free throws, when we get a lead, it's really hard for us to cough it up. And that's what free throws do for you. They give you insurance at the end of the game. They limit the options of another team's coach, what they can do to you, who they can foul, how they can attack certain mismatches. It's an absolute ace in the back pocket, and the Badgers are excellent at this year. And that extends to your backups, right? Kamari McGee comes in, Carter Gilmore comes in. Everybody on this team can shoot. It's what we talked about before the year, but it's nice to see it come to fruition. Next one here is three-point attempts per game. Again, going through some of the stats that define this team. 61st in the country in three-point attempts per game. That may not seem like a ton, but when you contrast it to last year, it was 244th in the country. The year before, 116th. The year before, 268th. It's a lot to go up 200 spots in three-point attempts per game. It's a lot to take that type of jump in volume in 1 year, in one off season. Again, we've talked about it a bunch, but they've completely cycled their offense. Completely shifted into running to threes, shooting in transition, driving to hit guys in the corner, running actions to get corner shots. It's really remarkable what they did in one off season. And that three-point attempts per game, it's what we talked about. They got to shoot the ball. And make or miss, shooting the ball at that volume, it stresses the defense. It pulls them out from the paint, which makes it easier for your drivers. It makes it easier to get in the paint and get fouled, which then ties into the fact that we never miss free throws. It makes it easier for Winter on the inside. It makes it easier for Crowell on the inside. Now you can't double Crowell, and when you do, he's going to find the shooter. His assist rate, which is the next thing we're going to get to, Stephen Crowell, assist rate of 20%. That's the highest on the team. It's a career high for him, and we've seen it, right? That spacing allows you to throw the ball in the Crowell, and then who on this team is a great cutter? A lot of guys, right? Tanjay's a great cutter. Blackwell's a great cutter. So those guys are dumping it in. They cut hard. Gilmore's another guy who moves really well without a ball. He has a great basketball IQ. And then Crowell's just dicing him up. So all that stuff works in concert, and you see it in the numbers, but you also see it through the eye test. Next stat here, points per game, 82.4. Again, you go look back at the last several years. Badgers were at 74 points per game, 65, 69, 69, 67, 82.4 this year. Yeah, offense wins in basketball, man. You need defense too, but it's a heck of a lot easier when you're average defensively and you're scoring 82 points per game, right? It puts so much pressure on another team. And the point I've made really with our offense is even on games where it hasn't been great, eventually they find a spurt because they're just too talented and there's too many guys on offense to keep them down for an entire game. It went cold a little bit against Ohio State in the second half, but for the most part, this team is going to score because there's too many options and they're too talented offensively. Next stat to me that really, really kind of cements what this team is. This one speaks to development. Carter Gilmore, 3-point progression. Okay, let's check this out. His first year in college basketball, his 3-point percentage was 0. He made none. Next year, it was 0.077. Then the next year, we're up to 19% from 3. Okay, there's a trend here, right? And that trend is continually moving upward. The next year, Carter Gilmore's at 25%, and this year he's at 36%. So in a 5-year stretch, it goes from 0% to 0.07 to 19% to 25% to 36%. Hell of a job by Carter Gilmore. That's what you just love to see that. Every single year his 3-point percentage got better and better and better and better and better. And that's a credit to him. It's a credit to the coaching staff. It's a credit to Greg Gard. It's a credit to all of them. It's awesome to take a player like that, to see where he was when he started his career and then just see a complete year after year progression. I think that speaks to a lot of things that are really healthy on the Badgers right now, from the coaching staff to the development staff, and obviously to Carter Gilmore, right? Because you don't do that without putting in thousands of hours in the gym. You don't do that without putting in thousands of shots up over the offseason. So credit to him, but also credit to the coaching staff. John Blackwell, here's the next one I want to hit on, stats that kind of define this year's team. We talked in the first segment about Chucky Hepburn leaving, right? And the gap that left at point guard. John Blackwell's assist rate doubled from last year. And that's a big part of filling that gap. It's Kamari McGee stepping in to play more minutes. It's Stephen Crowell being more forceful as a passer, but it's Blackwell doubling his assist rate to help keep this offense on track. Last year, Blackwell's assist rate was 6.4%. This year, it's 15.3%, right? So more than doubling his assist rate, taking on more of that role, that playmaker, which I think early in the year kind of messed with him a little bit. It kind of got him in between the spot of being really aggressive and being the scorer he needs to be, and also then or being just a guy who's setting other people up. Like, I need to take up the slack from Chucky Hepburn. I think he's figured that out now. I think he's found his balance as more of an aggressive combo guard who's also can pass. But it's still nice to see that assist rate come up, and that's been a key part of this offense being so good, is John Blackwell morphing into a scoring point guard, for lack of a better term. Next one here I want to hit on, again, stats that define this year's team. Nolan Winter, 99th percentile in the country in points per play. So scoring efficiency, essentially, how many points per play are you generating? Nolan Winter's averaging 1.722. Elite. That is absolutely bonkers elite. Now, I want to see him take more shots. I want to see him be more aggressive, and I want to see the coaching staff kind of force that issue because he's so efficient offensively. We got to see what can he do with another 3 or 4 looks a game. Let's get that usage rate up a little bit more, where it's maybe 4th on the team, 3rd on the team going forward. You obviously want Blackwell near the top of that. I think you want Tanjay. But then let's get Winter some more reps. Let's see what that scoring can do with that type of efficiency that he's put up. But what a jump. What a jump from last year to this year for Nolan Winter. Once again, credit to him, credit to the coaching staff. A 99th percentile in the country in offensive efficiency when we're talking about points per play. That's an absolutely elite mark. And I think he's been better on defense. He's been active on the glass. He plays hard. There's a budding star there in Nolan Winter that, not this year, but by the time he finishes up his career in Madison, I think is probably an all Big Ten type of player. Somebody who I think can get close to, probably not completely to John Lure level, but can get close to that type of player. And John Lure is really, really good. You're talking about an all Big Ten player. You're talking about an NBA guy who played, I think, 8 or 9 years in the league. I think Winter can get to that type of level. Maybe not quite to the ceiling of Lure, but 90% of John Lure is an all Big Ten type of player, and a player that you can win a bunch of games with. Next stat I want to talk about really quick. Again, stats that define this team. John Tanjay, stepping in as a portal. You lose Storr. Tanjay is kind of like a 1-for-1 fit. Storr last year was at 16.8 points per game in about 30 minutes. Tanjay's at 29 minutes and 17.2 points per game. It's a literal 1-for-1 swap with more efficiency and better effort on defense. I mean, it's a huge win. And we were so concerned about What happens when AJ Storr in those 16.8 points per game walk out the door? What happens to AJ Storr on the wing when those 30 minutes walk out the door? Who are you replacing this guy with? John Tonje comes in, and it's almost like he took AJ Storr's jacket off the hook that was just hanging there. He's like, this fits me just fine. I'm going to throw this on, stretch out a little bit. Yeah, this is a great fit for me. And we haven't missed a beat. Not only that, but the defense has been better because at least Tonje gives you more effort. He helps you on the glass a little bit more. He's been more efficient. I think that's been one of the keys is he's just been able to pretty seamlessly replace the minutes in the scoring punch and the gravity that AJ Storr kind of took out the door with him. You just plugged John Tonje and another great find from Greg Gard. I think he's just been absolutely rock solid this year, and he's filled that void. All right, coming up, I want to talk about the key player that I'm looking at as spring practice comes up. One player in particular I'm really, really keying in on the football side. That's coming up next. Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for friends of the show over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is phenomenal, right? Daily fantasy made easy. And that's what really I need, because the longer leagues where, you're battling against a bunch of guys who read every fantasy football magazine, who put thousands of hours into it, who are running like 5 different lineups in 5 different leagues. You just can't beat them because this is all they do. I need a league that's a little simpler, but still really fun. That's where Prize Picks come in. Daily fantasy made easy, more or less on 2 or more statistical categories. So, for example, you could do next year Billy Edwards Jr. more than 2 touchdowns, and maybe Dylan Jones more than 60 rushing yards. Like that's all you have to do. It's as simple as that over on Prize Picks. It's really fast, really easy. They have injury insurance in case you lose players off your lineup. They're the only real money daily fantasy platform that has that injury insurance. Right now, you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. You just need to sign up. That's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code LOCKDOWNCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKDOWNCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's talk about spring football and a couple key things, because listen, we're already halfway through January. Like, this stuff comes up quicker than we think. And I was thinking about this the other day as the portal ended, and a couple players still on this roster that I'm kind of surprised they're still here. And I love that they're still here, but I'm kind of surprised that they are. And I think what's happening with a few of these players is they're going to wait until the spring window here, the spring practice, because we all know the portal opens up again after spring. And by the way, who even knows now with this Xavier Lucas nonsense, right? I guess the portal's always open and you can just say, I'm going to leave, and it doesn't even matter. I'm not getting into that on this show. Okay. For the sake of this show, we're just going to assume there's another spring window, and this Xavier Lucas thing is just some oddball situation. I don't know. We're not going to do another Xavier Lucas show. But 2 players I'm incredibly interested in, Brendan Lane and Cade Yacamelli. Both players I was pretty sure were going to transfer. It was hinted at me that Brendan Lane would transfer. And Yacamelli, I never heard anything in terms of, he's going to go, but it just felt like such an obvious thing when a guy is not getting any reps. You still have 2 young running backs on the roster, and he was playing at that level he was playing at last year, and he stayed. He did not enter in the portal. It makes me think that they're going to go into spring. Cade's going to see what the depth chart looks like, see if he has a chance to play next year, and then make a decision. And man, I hope he stays. Because I think, in this wide zone scheme that Jeff Grimes is going to run, I think he fits really well. He's kind of that one cut and go, put the foot in the ground and go type of a guy that is going to fit well, where he doesn't have to make quite as much of a read, right? It's more of that one cut and go. I think he has the size and the speed to be really good in this offense. So I'm encouraged that he's still here. And I'm hopeful that the coaching staff is going to look at what he did last year, the statistical numbers he put up, and say, okay, we got to play this guy. He averaged 7, 8 yards per carry. We got a new offensive coordinator. We're going to commit a little bit more to the running game. We're going to find a role for Cade Yacamelli, and I'm really hopeful that happens. The other one is Brendan Lane, who came over as a transfer, one of the more heralded transfers, and then just never really played. Got a few reps here, got a few reps there. I'm really curious because he's a guy who I thought would go back in the portal. I know his family was a little frustrated at times. They would even come in the chat at times and express some frustration. I thought he was gone. I thought he was as good as gone. Him coming back, despite the fact that the Badgers added 6 guys, I think, on the defensive line, depending on how you classify some players, that was really surprising to me. I love it because I think the more bodies you have there, the better. But I think that's another guy who's going to look at where he's at in the spring and then make a decision. So those are 2 guys I'm really curious on. Where do the Badgers still need to add when that spring window opens up? They need another corner. I like Rico coming back, obviously. I like Harper. I like Agard. I've heard good things on Emilio Agard. I like that they've added 2 portal guys, but Deone Hill from Miami, quite frankly, didn't play great last year. And I don't know how much you're going to count on that. I think they need another portal guy at corner, at least for the depth. And then at quarterback, I would love if they could find, this is going to be really tricky, but I would love if they could find a quarterback who could come in and just add a little more experience to the room without caring. This is a tricky part, right? Where do you find the guy who's going to come in and add more experience without caring how much he's going to play? I don't know if that guy's going to be out there, but I'm looking at maybe a D2 player, a guy who's almost out of eligibility somewhere and isn't going to play where he's at, who is okay just coming to Madison, being in a great college environment, a great college town, a great academic university, get a year of a master's degree program or whatever, and just be a veteran presence, an adult in the quarterback room to provide a little more insurance there. I would love that. If you could find that, I think you add another quarterback. If you can, that makes sense. You add another corner, and I think you're pretty solid then. Obviously, if there's any spot you look at that you see somebody that jumps on the board and you're like, wow, that guy can upgrade this position, you do it. But I think they're pretty solid at that point. If you get another corner and if you could find a quarterback to bolster that room, those numbers just a little bit. Aside from that, I'm mostly going to be checking out where the defensive linemen line up. I'm incredibly fascinated. I'm going to be going down to probably Platteville again. I'm fascinated to see where those defensive linemen line up. Like who's playing where, who's in the 2 deep, which of the transfer guys, which of the returning players, how are they going to use these chess pieces? Because they have to do a better job this year than they did last year. So the defensive line, the front 7 rotation, the receivers, I'm going to be really interested on. And then if they can add another corner, add another quarterback, I think they'll be gravy. Anyway, on Wisconsin, this is today's show. Really do appreciate y'all so much. When you're done, you go check out Locked On Big Ten, all the biggest stories, the Big Ten Conference from NIL to conference realignment when we talk about that, to incoming recruiting classes, all over there on the Locked On Big Ten channel. On Wisconsin, appreciate you, and we will talk to you tomorrow.